Hello, and thank you for joining us for the Harrington Quality Management Software Supplier Risk Management Portal overview. Supplier management has become more and more of a critical process in supporting this new era post-pandemic growth. In this unpredictable, customer-driven world we're living in, we're painfully learning the impact of ignoring enterprise-wide supplier relationships. The HQMS Supplier Portal was designed with affordability in mind, meaning you don't have to be a billion-dollar global company to have a world-class supplier portal. With a few clicks, your employees can quickly respond to supplier communications before a little issue becomes a big problem. And as everyone would expect, of course, supplier scorecards. We need the data, we get the data, we need the analytics. It's a new spend management insight in the area of supplier performance. We have a pretty big group with us today across a variety of markets, which is interesting, and also a good amount of purchasing people joining today, and we appreciate you taking the time to do that. Everyone's muted because of the quantity, but if you can post some questions, we'd like to answer those at the end, and a copy of the presentation is available upon request. So we'd kind of like to go through this flow, talk just about the problem of suppliers, although a lot of you know that from the news every day. What the HQMS solution looks like. We've got one of our subject matter experts, Rodney, with us, who's going to go through the software with us, and then we'll talk about ROI. Supply chain and risk are everywhere in the news. 7 million Google hits in less than 0.3 seconds. It's on the top of mind of executives who are now rethinking low-cost supplier overseas. Maybe isn't a good idea. Maybe we should bring them back onto shore. But this is a subject, if you're looking to get your executives' attention, this is a good one. And the executives need to understand it's more than just moving suppliers around the globe. They need an HQMS-type portal to manage the supplier risk. The old way, or maybe the current way for some of you today, is a bunch of stuff with pencils and emails and trying to track down information. The ERP systems are intended to manage inventory and accounting. The PLM systems are all your engineering drawings. HQMS manages the rest. And, again, even people that want supplier scorecards, Excel sheets are prone to error. They're hard to develop. Getting a supplier spreadsheet for June when it's October are kind of, I don't want to say worthless, but not as meaningful. And suppliers really kind of ignore what's going on because they're hoping no one will follow up or track the results. And if you do send them a scorecard, a lot of times they'll challenge it because you can't defend it. So what does the Harrington approach look like? All right, get it all off the paper, get it all out of the spreadsheets, put it into a relational database with all the capability you want, immediate transmissions back and forth that are always complete with no errors, integrated with your ERP, and the scorecards automatically built from the data, no clerical errors, no reporting areas, no cut and paste areas, objective quantifiable data. So, you got to explain to the suppliers what the requirements are. You need to communicate those requirements to them. If there are issues, we need to get those documented up front and communicated back and forth quickly. Again, so a little issue doesn't become a big problem. And build out the scorecards. And scorecards are how are we doing on quality, how are we doing on delivery, how are we doing on price, how are we doing on service. The HQMS system has flexible reporting based on your data. We can aggregate charts on the fly or generate reports ranging from various things. You're going to see when Ronnie gets in here, he's going to talk about the configuration of the system. But the bottom line is we're trying to enable better collaboration between you and your suppliers. So again, let's automate these routine supply chain transactions and eliminate the labor, eliminate the errors. If you have an issue, let's get it to them, and let's make sure that we process it accordingly. The HQMS Supplier Portal sits on top of the Harrington Quality Management System Enterprise technology, which comes with, essentially everything in the kitchen sink. All the security your IT wants, any device that has an HTML5 compliant browser on it, the emails in and out, exporting, reporting, task management, integration, all the tool sets that make it come to life. And, the ability to, and this is just an example of a corrective action, Rodney's going to share a little bit more with you, but quickly seeing corrective action reports by supplier, by location, by part, trending charts on them, again, bringing it all to life in such a way that makes sense, and integrating with your ERP or other data sources to make sure that we can tie it all together for the decision making we're looking for. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rodney. He's going to take you through the app. And again, we'd like to, we got a couple questions coming in already. So yeah, enter your questions in so we can take a look at them. Rodney, off to you.
Great. Thanks, John. Yeah, so I'm going to go through like 5, kind of main areas regarding the portal here. And also, I'm going to show some stuff within HQMS. And so for just to kind of go over an overview and a basic explanation here, John, had already said that the portal runs on top of HQMS. So the primary HQMS site and the portal site have separate login pages. The suppliers log into the portal site, and they can only view their own information. The portal contains a mixture of view-only and editable content. Also, suppliers can attach files to most of the portal records, and so then the HQMS users at your company through the other site, they can log in, they can add and share records and other information with the suppliers. So I have the portal, I'm already logged in here, and this is just an example of the home page to kind of go over a little bit of stuff here. The homepage displays the score down here at the bottom where it says supplier score trend, and we have thresholds, this red line and green line up here, more detail at the right for the breakdown. There's also this breakdown button here. If I get into there, there's explanation and guidance and more detail on what the scores mean. And that explanation and guidance can be modified within HQMS by the authorized users. So I'm not going to dig through all that stuff here right now. So if I just go back to the main page on the left, this is the main area for navigation. And if I click on the forms link here, these are what we call the modules in HQMS that are connected to the portal. For example, I can click on PPAP, and so each module has its own list page. You can filter for records at the top in this little text area up here. If I typed in a value here, it automatically filters. We can sort this list. So I'm going to click on this PPAP record. Each record has a detail page. And so some information the suppliers can modify, but they can't modify at all. And if I go down to the bottom, PPAP's big, so we have to go down pretty far there. We have this discussion area where you can communicate back and forth between HQMS and the suppliers, and the suppliers can add attachments to the record, and the HQMS users can also add attachments, and they can share them to the portal. Then if we look at the top right up here, this works in conjunction with our document control module within HQMS. So you can add documents in a certain way and make them visible to the portal. So any information for the suppliers that helps them, you can put this stuff here and they would simply click on one of the links and they would be able to download the file. And then at the bottom right here, we have this communication area where these are contacts that are configured within HQMS. So these are, people at your organization that communicate with this supplier. And if I click on a name there, I can send a message And so then that would go to that contact. You can also add attachments in this area. So that's just, the kind of the brief overview of, the main areas in the portal. If I switch back to HQMS here, what I want to show is some of the configuration within HQMS. I'm not going to go into the detail here. We can talk about this more in a demo or, trainings if you purchase HQMS. So authorized users can get here. They can modify the messages up in this area that display in the portal and on the login page. We have options in this data modification. So the options here are for which of their information the suppliers can modify. The notifications area, so this defines who receives a notification when suppliers modify a record in the portal. It sends out a HQMS notification. And then we have a lot of stuff for the score. In the scoring options first here, you can change the formulas for the scores. Then you can set the minimum and maximum or not the maximum value, but the minimum value or the minimum score they should be looking for, and the score that they should be looking to achieve. And then below that, we have the scoring explanation and guidance, where if you modify the formula, you can modify the explanation, and then the guidance can help the suppliers improve their score. And so you can completely modify the information there. Great. And then, so another example here, so we add a supplier record into HQMS. I just kind of briefly want to talk about how we activate suppliers in the portal, to get them into the portal. So I would simply just enable the supplier portal. Before I click it, I have a little hover, tells me how many licenses are left. Then I would click on this invite link, which I'm not going to go through this whole example here right now, but this would send them an email with a link. They click on it, and then they set up their account to get into the portal. Once they set up their account, they can actually add other users from their company into here. Or, through HQMS, you can add contacts yourself. So that's just an example of how we get a supplier in the portal. And of course, I talk about the portal, HQMS. The suppliers can only see their own information within the portal. I just want to make sure that that's, clear. So in this example here, this is from a supplier corrective action record, or a SCAR. So I want to talk about how we involve the suppliers with those records. And what I did is I just clicked on the link in my email. When it comes time for the supplier's portion, then HQMS will send the contact an email. And then since I was already logged in, it didn't take me to the login page. It knew I was already logged in. So sorry, I got a little lost. Yeah, so with this SCAR, so some areas in green, I can add information into this record. And another example is if I go to the audit record here, or the audit list. In this example, this audit was set to the supplier for the supplier's input. You have two types of audits. One audit you can share with the supplier so they can view it just for information purposes. Maybe if you conduct an audit and you want to share the results, or you can share an audit and request that the supplier completes it. And so just a real quick example, if I clicked on an item in the checklist here, then I can choose, maybe this is going to be a pass, finding is observation, and I can type in, some information regarding this particular item. And technically, if I use this next, I could go to the, the next item, but I'm not going to go through all that here. I'm just going to click on close and get out of here. So that's just an example of some of the records that we can update and modify within the portal. So another area that I want to talk about is our supplier scorecards. So I showed how on the portal, the supplier can see, of course, their own score. But then within HQMS, the authorized users can also view the scorecard list where they can see the scores of all the suppliers across all time, or they can filter out for specific suppliers or a time period, or maybe they're looking on a certain minimum or maximum score here. So if I go into this filter area, we tried to make this easy to filter. I can add other fields here, and then we have operators, and I can search, maybe where SCAR score is greater than or equal to 25. And so here, actually, I'm gonna click on a specific scorecard here. This is just an example of a month snapshot for one supplier, so you can see all the scores there. And there's also this override area where, for whatever reason, there's some kind of an error. You can actually override that score and set your own value there. And then technically, this will kind of lead into the next area here to kind of talk about reports, specific with the portal. And in one case here, if I click on print up at the top, basically each record in HQMS has a detailed report. So this is just an example of the detailed report of the supplier scorecard. And then I want to go back to my home page here. Now, in some of the other webinars that we've done, I've gone into kind of some more detail with certain Pareto charts and some trend charts and things like that. I'm not going into all that detail here. I'm just kind of showing some things that really mainly apply to the portal here. If you want, we can provide you with a demo and go over anything that you would like to. And so I have a saved report here, scorecard list for a particular supplier within the last 3 years. So what that means is when I click on that link, it automatically displays this scorecard list, shows me that data with the query built in to the report. There's another way in the system where you can run and generate the report, set the filter to it. I'm not going to go into all that detail. We've done some of that with the other webinars. So great. I'm going to kick it back over to John now.
All right. Thanks, Rodney. Appreciate it. So let's talk ROI. Everyone wants to get a specific numerical ROI for efforts of this nature, and it may or may not be possible. The good news is, in this particular subject, it is possible. It's possible very quickly with debit memos. The ability to tag labor and part costs to a supplier for problems caused by a supplier in receiving in your facility or out in the field. We've got a very tangible one, and some of the customers have seen ROI in months. There was one company that I put in a portal like this, privately held company. The VP of quality was presenting to the CEO, and he said, we recovered $6 million in nonconformance or problems with the suppliers last year. And the owner sat back and said, wow, that's a lot of money. How's that compared to last year? And the VP of quality said, we couldn't even do it last year. We didn't have the tools or techniques in place. But, your supply chain just becomes highly visible. And it's a good value to both you and your suppliers because it gets smoother operations. And what we're trying to do with this tool is to help you build a more resilient supply chain, a more responsive supply chain with increased visibility. We know risk management's important. We've got to be able to manage that. But simply put, save time and money with the easy use of these tools at your disposal, driven by the HQMS Enterprise app with this portal on it. You can quickly see in your supply chain where the ROI is coming from or where is this not going from. We mentioned HQMS Enterprise. It's a series of modules that are intended to use internally and with your suppliers. Today's conversation was talking about the supplier enablement. Real quick about Harrington Group International, been in business for over 30 years with 45,000 customers around the world. We've got a team that just tries to get cost-effective quality management software that evolves as your business grows. And that's not just a tagline. The evolve as your business grows mean we understand small business, medium-sized business, although we do support a lot of billion-dollar global companies as well. But we also know that we got to get you short-term operational improvements along with long-term financial results in order to get this thing funded, approved, and put together. So let's take a look. We do have a couple questions. One was, Rodney, I think you mentioned this, but the question is just a kind of follow-up. Who manages supplier logins? Can you elaborate on that?
Great. Yeah. Technically, the HQMS users, that would be, the company that purchases HQMS. Basically, it's the contact's email address is their login name, and we can reset their password, or the company with HQMS can reset their password, or that user can reset their password from the login page of the portal.
Okay, great. This next one is just kind of a comment, I guess, but it's self-audits by suppliers and asking for them, managing them, and document them is a great idea. So just kind of a smiley face for us feedback.
Good.
The last one it basically says, explain more about this ROI from debit memos. Well, in HQMS, we have the ability to manage, receive, and inspection. And in that process, if there's a material nonconformance, we'll document a material nonconformance. And that process will capture both the labor costs associated with going through the analysis and the part costs. Again, how you want to build that or how you want to track it's up to you. I've seen companies say every problem that's caused by a supplier gets a minimum $500 service fee. $250, $500,000. You pick the number. But the interesting part is until you start tracking this in such a way that you see the activity as visible, as transparent, most organizations are shocked at the amount of time, labor, resources that is spent on supplier issues. And the HQMS Supplier Portal just brings that all up in front, and again, in front of both the customers and suppliers. All right, I think that's it. Again, if you'd like to know more about the portal or any of the HQMS enterprise modules, please reach out to us. The website is www.hgint.com. You can reach us at 1-800-ISO-9000 or email us at sales@hgint.com. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.